When I was young, I used to think that USB is a country next to USA. Today, I'm going to recap a 1987 crime thriller film called The Untouchables. Chicago, 1930. Prohibition in the United States has led to an organized crime wave in the 1920s and early 1930s. Various gangs bootleg vast amounts of alcohol and control their businesses with violence and extortion. The problem is most serious in Chicago, where gang leader Al Capone has nearly the whole city, even the city's mayor, under his control, and supplies poor quality liquor at high prices. While being interviewed by a reporter, Capone insists that he is a legitimate businessman who is responding to the will of the people, their need to drink alcohol. A Capone associate, the Bowtie man, shakes down a restaurant owner who was chosen to buy from one of Capone's competitors. The owner refuses to be intimidated. Bowtie man appears to back off. Moments later, Capone's white-suited enforcer, Frank Nitti, casually turns a switch on a briefcase next to him and casually walks away. The briefcase contains a bomb, which destroys the restaurant, killing most of its patrons, including a little girl who tried to bring the briefcase back to Nitti. Treasury Department agent Eliot Ness is put in charge of leading the crusade against Capone and his empire. Ness' initial strategy is to conduct raids using a large squad of uniformed officers, but his first attempt fails when he breaks into a warehouse storing umbrellas. Although it is implied by Capone's reaction to the newspaper headline about Ness' mistake that it was indeed a liquor warehouse, but his men had been tipped off by the corrupt police chief, Mike Dorsett. Embarrassed over the fiasco and seeking ideas for a change of tactics, Ness has a chance encounter with Jimmy Malone, an incorruptible Irish beat cop who understands the way Capone does business and decides to ask for his help. Reluctant at first, Malone urges Ness to become as ruthless as the gangsters he wants to take down. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way, and that's how you get Capone. With corruption running rampant throughout the Chicago police force, Malone suggests that Ness recruit directly from the police academy in order to find team members who have not yet had a chance to come under Capone's influence. They start with the academy's best shooter, George Stone. When he reveals his real name is Giuseppe Petri, Malone suddenly becomes hostile, provoking Stone about his Italian heritage. Stone suddenly points his backup pistol at Jimmy's throat. Jimmy eases off, saying he likes Stone and his refusal to back down from a confrontation. Ness is a bit shaken, but agrees with Jimmy. With their fourth edition, bookish Treasury accountant Oscar Wallace, detailed to Chicago from Washington, Ness has built an incorruptible team capable of combating Capone. Wallace tells Ness they can indict Capone on income tax evasion, an idea that Ness seems reluctant to try, since Capone runs the city's illegal liquor trade and is a murderer. Wallace still insists it's better than nothing. Their first raid takes place in a local post office across South LaSalle Street, whose storeroom is used to house Capone's illegal liquor. Malone and most of the police know where the alcohol is, but they leave it alone because no one wants to provoke Capone and his gang. The raid succeeds without incident, though Capone later kills the man who had been in charge of the storeroom with a baseball bat at a large banquet, sending an undeniable message to the rest of his staff. As the four pick up steam and become noted by the press, Wallace begins to probe the finances of the Capone organization. At one point, Ness is visited by a shady Chicago alderman who is also under Capone's control. The alderman tries to bribe Ness into dropping the investigation, but Ness angrily rejects the offer and throws him out in full view of the team. As he leaves, he mockingly refers to them as untouchable and says that Capone, who is known as a cop killer, can get to anyone he chooses, one way or another. The alderman's words prove to be true when Nitti makes veiled threats toward Ness and his family outside his house and drives off before Ness can confront him. Realizing that Capone has targeted him, Ness orders his wife and daughter move to a safer place. Malone and Stone then bring word of a large whiskey shipment coming in from Canada, and the team flies north to set up a raid at the border. During the raid, Ness' team and a squad of Royal Canadian Mounted Police officers intercept the shipment, arresting or killing everyone involved. Stone is shot in the shoulder, and Wallace shows unexpected courage when he takes down several henchmen, clubbing one of them when he runs out of shotgun shells. Malone captures one of Capone's bookkeepers, George Costa, and the team tries to persuade him to provide evidence against Capone. Wallace discovers a thick ledger in Costa's briefcase, detailing large amounts of money changing hands, including an entry for a circuit court. Demanding he explain the code used in the ledger, Costa initially refuses to cooperate, even after Malone assaults him. However, he changes his mind once Malone shoots a thug, who was actually already dead in the mouth to frighten him. Enraged even further, Capone orders his men to hunt down and kill Ness, even Ness' family, knowing that with Ness dead, the Untouchables will be finished. Ness' wife, meanwhile, has just given birth to their second child, whom they named John with a middle name James in honor of his new friendship with Malone. At the police station, where the Untouchables are being congratulated, Wallace prepares to escort George into protective custody. However, they are both shot and killed by Nitti, disguised as the policeman operating the elevator. When the bodies are found, the word touchable has been written on the wall in their blood. Ness is left with insufficient evidence to press charges, and the frustration drives him into challenging Capone in public to a physical fight in front of his son and several armed henchmen. Capone deliberately provokes Ness when he insults his family, prompting Ness to draw his pistol. Malone intervenes and forces Ness to back down, diffusing the confrontation. Malone tells Ness to stall the district attorney from dropping the case while he searches for information regarding Walter Payne, another of Capone's bookkeepers. A subpoena is issued for Payne, prompting Capone's men to make plans to get him out of town. Malone angrily confronts Dorset, knowing that he's sold out Wallace, demanding information on where Capone plans to move Payne. After a brutal fistfight, Dorset shares what he knows, but warns Malone that Capone's assassins will retaliate. Malone calls Ness and instructs him to meet him at his apartment. While he waits, the Bowtie man sneaks in through a window, armed with a knife. Malone is able to evade him for a few moments, giving him a chance to retrieve his sawed-off shotgun from his Victrola. An amused Malone berates him for bringing a knife to a gunfight and throws him out. This proves to be a trap, however, as Nitti, perched on a nearby fire escape, shoots Malone with a Tommy gun on Malone's back stoop. Still alive, he crawls back through his apartment to his living room. He is barely alive when Ness and Stone find him, and he shows Ness which train Payne will be taking before dying in his arms. Ness and Stone arrive at Union Station. While waiting for Payne to arrive, Ness watches from a high vantage point at the top of the entrance steps while Stone searches the rest of the station. A woman with a baby carriage and several heavy suitcases is helped by Ness when Payne, guarded by several thugs, suddenly enters the station. One of the bodyguards recognizes Ness from the earlier altercation with Capone and quickly alerts his comrades. After a fierce shootout, the Bowtie man decides to cut his losses and uses Payne a human shield, threatening to kill him unless Ness and Stone back down. Stone shows his marksmanship skills by shooting the Bowtie man in the mouth. A terrified Payne has no choice but surrender. Payne testifies in court against Capone, admitting his role in channeling money amounting to over $1 million to Capone over the last 3 years. Ness, however, notices Capone relaxed and even smiling, despite the probability of serving a long prison sentence, and also sees Nitti carrying a gun in court. He takes Nitti out of the courtroom with the bailiff and discovers that Nitti has permission from the corrupt mayor of Chicago to carry the weapon. Ness then identifies Nitti as Malone's murderer after finding Malone's address on a matchbook in Nitti's pocket. Panicking, Nitti seizes his pistol and holds Ness and the bailiff at bay for a few seconds. Nitti shoots the bailiff and runs up to the roof, the two exchanging gunfire through the building. On the roof and out of bullets, he begins to climb down a rope but still cannot escape. Eventually, Ness gets Nitti in his sights, but cannot bring himself to shoot the man in cold blood. Nitti gives himself up to Ness telling him that he'll see him burn because he murdered Malone, stating that Malone died screaming like a stuck Irish pig, and that Ness should think about that when he, Nitti, is tried and convicted for the murder but set free anyway. Enraged at the thought that Nitti will escape punishment for his crimes, and provoked to revenge, Ness pushes Nitti off the roof. He shouts to the screaming thug, "Did he sound anything like that?" before Nitti dies on impact with a parked car. Back inside the courthouse, Stone shows Ness a document from Nitti's jacket that shows bribes paid to the jurors, explaining Capone's relaxed mood. However, the judge has no intention of using it as evidence and is fully prepared to let Capone go free, inadvertently revealing his own corruption or fear of the crime boss. In a last-ditch effort, Ness talks the judge into doing the right thing, bluffing him into believing that the judge's name is among those in the bookkeeper's ledger of payoffs. As a result, the judge decides to switch his jury with the one in another courtroom. Before the trial can continue, Capone's lawyer changes the plea of not guilty to one of guilty without Capone's consent. Capone is sentenced to 11 years in prison. Ness taunts Capone, who yells at Ness as he is taken into custody. As he packs up his office, Ness contemplates the St. Jude medallion that Malone had carried with him for many years, linked to his call box key, and which Malone had given to him before dying. Ness gives the medallion to Stone, reasoning that since Jude is the patron saint of police officers, Malone would have wanted him to have it. Out on the street, a reporter wishes to have a word from Ness, but Ness modestly downplays his role in the showdown. When the reporter mentions that prohibition is due to be repealed and asks what Ness might do then, Ness responds, "I think I'll have a drink." If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.